A few moments ago, there were big, juicy raindrops splashing the roof, and then I was okay. Now I know what I'm going to say or talk about, and I copied this koan that deals with the raindrops. And then when I had prepared it and everything, I turned my back and it was big snowflakes. And then I ran after next koan that has snowflakes. But now I see that I don't have it here with me. Weather changes, but perhaps I remember it by heart. But before that, we'll see how this weather will change, and we start with something else. So I thought that I will read one poem. And since it is written in Swedish originally, I thought that I try to read it in Swedish first. Then I will read it in Finnish. And then I will read it in English, which is my poor translation. I made quite haste. So I'm so sorry. It's a kind of a raw version translation. Since this poem, I read often this author, this poet, Gösta Ågren, and I've used many times his poems in these talks. At least a couple of them I repeat now and then. This one I didn't kind of noticed until just recently. And suddenly this felt that it gives a picture for something I believe or think that is somehow pictures something about this practice. And it is called Mormors mor. Bilden är sann med sin målade bakgrund som döljer hennes liv. Hon sitter där och väntar på att bli bild i stora enkla kläder. Ändå syns hon inte, ty fotografiet föreställer modern. En gestalt i de gamla visorna som skrevs för kvinnoröst och 1800-talets vemodiga vind. Hon ser ut över 1900-talets ruiner. Framtidens pris är högt. Det består i att den aldrig kommer. Moder, jag längtar hem till detta hus där jag bor. Och denna korta höstdag när jag lever. Okay, and then samma på finska. Äidin äiti. Kuva on tosi maalattuine taustoineen, joka kätkee hänen elämänsä. Siinä hän istuu ja odottaa kuvaksi tulemista väljissä, yksinkertaisissa vaatteissa. Kuitenkaan häntä ei näy, sillä valokuva esittää äitiä, hahmoa vanhoissa lauluissa, joita kirjoitettiin naisäänille ja 1800-luvun surumieliselle tuulelle. Hän katsoo yli 1900-luvun raunioiden. Tulevaisuuden hinta on korkea. Se koostuu siitä, ettei tulevaisuus koskaan tule. Äiti, minä kaipaan kotiin tähän taloon, jossa asun, ja tähän lyhyen syyspäivään, jonka elän. And then, the great grandmother. The picture is true with painted backgrounds, which hides her life. There she sits and waits to become a picture in her loose, simple clothes. However, she is not visible, for the photograph shows the mother character in old songs, written for female voices and the melancholy wind of the 19th century. She looks over the 20th century ruins. The price of the future is high. It consists of that the future will never come. Mom, I miss home, to this house where I live, and to this short autumn day that I am living. All right. So first, what takes attention here is that there is those background, painted background. There is painted background, simply, yes. And the model is sitting in front of that. The background in itself is something that has many, many possibilities. What even is this background? We all have backgrounds. But in this case, when you choose to take a photo, like yesterday was said that nowadays it's very simple to do at least one kind of self-portraits, those meme virus pictures. And it's easy to choose. You can go around and see what kind of things is behind you, and then you place yourself there and take a photo. Back in the days, it was of course much more complicated. You have to travel and pay perhaps high price for someone who would take the photo. And what was behind you was painted. But other level sort of this, how we like to choose this story that we want that people will think that we are representing. And us, of course. We are telling it as much for ourselves than others. And that story, however beautiful or exciting or whatever it is, it's a fantasy. It's a kind of fantasy storyline that we are living in, changing those background pictures one after another. We not often put out any backgrounds that gives us kind of in a negative light. We choose something else. But who are we standing or sitting in front of those painted backgrounds? This practice, for sure, is stripping off those paintings. And it will be a nude picture. There we are, naked. Maybe something more about those backgrounds soon, but let's continue to see what else this poem tells. Yes, and it says, that background picture actually, and the whole picture, is kind of hiding her life. It's not showing it real as it real is. We see her there sitting, but then we see that she is also representing something that was her, in this case was her, could we say, at that time, maybe this happened like, must have happened during when Finland was still part of Russian. So at that time anyway, people weren't that free, but more free than a few hundred years before. I don't remember when this society changed, that we didn't have any more those different classes, like soldiers and priests and businessmen and farmers and such. Nobility and those things disappeared at some point, but maybe they were, of course, at that point still existing in Finland. So you were born also in some group of people, and probably you had to act accordingly, or at least you tried. And it was also possible to climb up to the next level. But I guess most people would accept their destiny and would do their best to fit the group. Good example is Japan today even, because if I know anything, I think it is perhaps because so many people living there. But there you born within some profession or place in society, and you really don't change it. It's not acceptable. And system waits that you will accept your place and keep going, not sticking out too much. It has, of course, some advantages, but also if your family is lower caste, then you can't change that. That's not maybe so fair. But the next line also rings the bell. There she sits and waits, loose, simple loose clothes waits to become a picture, photograph. You can imagine how exciting it was back then. It wasn't just that those pictures we can take today with our phones. Do we sit here and do we wait something? Waiting to become something with our loose clothes. Perhaps not real picture, but who knows? Maybe someone is waiting to become a painted picture one day, one of those top 10 great priests of Sanneji, that those pictures are placed in the entrance one day. Yeah, we are waiting things happening. But could we just sit here without waiting anything? A photo is already taken. It was taken already. Now you just sit there. You don't have to be anything else. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to look good. You don't have to know any special skills. You are perfect just as you are. And that is 100% true. Not 99.99, but just full 100. And that's difficult to accept. So difficult. How can I be perfect as I am? Because I have done so many stupid things and I am not perfect. What does it mean if you are perfect as you are? It also means that just this one meeting, this one moment is perfect also itself. This moment is perfect as it is. Even if I spill the water now to the floor, it doesn't change that fact. Even if this roof is falling in, it's perfect. Of course we have to clean afterwards, and that's also perfect. And then this poem continues and says that this the picture is, it shows a mother, but not the mother that this poet is talking about. It's a character. And this poet is seeing their different kind of nuances, different kind of subtle little details that the melancholy wind of the 19th century is there. We become, everything will leave some marks for us. We walk through life and we will get scars. different kind of scars. Our posture will be different after we have walked through some hardships. So we ourselves, we are painted by life. But even so, we can see through that all that, and we can see that, as this poet is putting it, that all those scars and all those that we are painted, what we are, it doesn't show who we really are. Perhaps we think so. But what and who we truly are, just now, if we don't think about our past or dream about future. If we don't think anything, if we just this, who are you then? And then this continues that it looks, or poet puts it in the way that she looks over the 20th century ruins. What an image! There she is, somewhere in 1857, let's say, or 1800 something. And she looks over the 19th century's ruins, no, 20th century ruins. It's a beautiful image. She will never come there. She will never travel to that time, really, but still, she looks there because this poet was, of course, her great-great-grandson. Or great-grandson. Yeah. The price of the future is high. There is future, but the price is so high. It is that the future never will come. It comes from our successors, but not for us. I have only one picture of this kind of picture, or at least I have a copy of it. It's just it wasn't so long ago that I discovered it from my parents' stuff, and somehow it caught my attention also. In that picture there is this couple, some of my great parents that lived already 120 years ago. The picture was taken something like 120 years ago. There was this Mr. Stenman and his wife, Mrs. Lindström. They were hard-working people. They lived in very, very small, tiny, almost cottage. It was a small house. They had one cow and few chickens and very small vegetable garden. They lived just next to railway because this Mr. Stenman was in charge for this railway. he took care that people could safely travel, that everything goes smoothly. Some people just passing the station, that stop. Some people would come and go. They had 10 children plus 3 children his previous marriage, because he was widow. That was tight group. And because he was working in railway, I could imagine that they got a free ride to Helsinki. They put their best Sunday clothes. And they walked very short distance from the main railway station to maybe some 100 meters or so. There was then Jakob Lundqvist's atelier, photographer studio, and they went there. And they chose, or I don't know who chose, but they had this background, painted background. Looked a little bit like botanic garden. Those gorgeous, exotic plants and some very decorative empire, I don't know, pillars and such. And Mrs. Lindström was sitting on the very beautiful carved chair, and they both looked off the camera, and they were quite serious looking there. They weren't young anymore, and they both looked really like that they have lived a hard life. But those people, they are here with us in some ways. Thanks for them, we can practice today. Without them, we wouldn't be here. And in some ways, I am really grateful for all of them. We are not separated. In some sense, I feel responsible for that direction also. They never knew that I will be here sitting and talking, of course, about their life. The future, the price is so high, it will never come. But, all right. And then this poem ends. It's a little bit surprising turn happens here, which again I appreciate and like very much. Suddenly this poet, maybe he's talking to his real mother, who is already deceased, or maybe he's talking to his great-grandmother. But he just says that, "Mom, I miss home. To this very house where I live." Amazing picture. Suddenly he understands something important. I am already at home, but I'm still missing here. Strangely enough, he is at home, but he doesn't exactly, not completely feel so. He's longing to be where he is. I think that's very important. We must be honest for those things. Usually we don't paint that kind of background behind us. We don't tell that we have this and this longings and troubles, and we don't want to confess ourselves that there is something missing, that I'm not as perfectly great than I want to be, or I want to show that I am. Anyway, he is missing there where he is already sitting behind next to the table. And not only missing the house where he is already living, but also to this short autumn day that I'm living. This precious practice is nothing but that. We are not missing anywhere else. We can say so, we can put up those kind of backgrounds if we think it is great, but the truth is that we are missing where we already are. Just it is short. What season is this? I don't know. Winter day. That we are living. But in order to come here, we can't take anything within us. Not from the past, not from the imaginary future. We have to strip off those background paintings. We have to open our hands, our hearts, minds. It is a bit humbling thing to do. It needs tremendous amount of courage not to look elsewhere. May all beings attain the Buddha way.